impact, more than just a game.
In today's NBA, almost every decision, from how teams build rosters to which shots players take, seems to hinge on a mountain of data. GMs endlessly crunch numbers, coaches comb through spreadsheets, and commentators spit advanced metrics like they're reading box scores from the future. It's all part of a basketball revolution that promises teams an edge if they follow the math. Yet in the midst of this data frenzy, one player stands out by defying every analytic trend the league holds dear. Jimmy Butler. Whenever people try to reduce him to a neat stat line or fancy projection, he shatters that mold in ways no spreadsheet can predict. And if you think that's just hype, then buckle up, because his story is more surprising than any chart or algorithm can capture. Analytics began creeping into the NBA consciousness over a decade ago, but it truly took over when teams realized numbers could reveal hidden efficiencies. General managers had been burned for too long by flashy dunkers who vanished in the clutch, or by big-name signings that never panned out. Once data analysis showed which shots were most efficient, the corner three, the layup, the free throw, organizations started tailoring entire offensive schemes around those findings. On paper, it's brilliant. Good shots, fewer mistakes, better outcomes. But the analytics wave also kicked up controversies. Fans bemoaned the sudden disappearance of mid-range maestros like Carmelo Anthony or even prime Dwyane Wade. Critics claimed the game was turning robotic, losing the creative flair that made hoops special. Yet, whenever these skeptics spoke up, the data defenders had an immediate reply. The numbers don't lie. If your team wanted to win, you had to play it the smart way. Three-pointers or bust. Layups over fadeaways. And yes, if you couldn't handle the pace, maybe you just didn't belong. To many, it was the final word on how basketball should be played, until Jimmy Butler tossed that narrative out the window. Unlike so many NBA stars groomed for greatness from a young age, Jimmy's path was riddled with obstacles. He bounced around during his teenage years and entered junior college without the hype machine that follows five-star recruits. Scouts barely glanced his way, and it's rumored more than a few major programs declined to offer him scholarships. Online forums have even buzzed with odd conspiracies and rumor-mill chatter about his family and parentage. Stuff that most players never have to address. But no matter what personal struggles he faced, Jimmy's mindset was always locked on pushing forward. When the 2011 draft rolled around, Butler fell to the end of the first round. By that time, the league seemed more fascinated with highlight reels than heart. Jimmy didn't have the insane wingspan or the explosive scoring average, but then he got his chance in Chicago, and everything changed. Early on with the Chicago Bulls, Butler clashed with the organization's shifting identity. He rose to prominence under Tom Thibodeau, a no-nonsense coach who valued grit above all else, but the front office wanted a different kind of future. When Derrick Rose battled injuries, Jimmy became an unexpected focal point of the offense. Not everyone appreciated it. Analysts insisted he wasn't efficient enough, that a perimeter player with an average three-point shot couldn't carry a franchise. Despite the skepticism, he just kept grinding. Then came the drama in Minnesota that turned into a media firestorm. The short version? He reportedly challenged his fellow starters with the third-string squad during practice, and demolished them. Reports said he trashed them verbally the entire time, sending shockwaves around the league. It was an ultra-competitive move that fans either loved or loathed. Butler didn't apologize, and that blunt approach pushed him out the door soon after. Philadelphia took a swing on him next, but once again, rumors of friction surfaced. Some commentators accused him of clashing with coaches and younger teammates, painting him as a locker room nightmare. The truth was always murky, but Jimmy didn't stick around long. He soon landed in Miami, a place known for valuing discipline and work ethic. Suddenly, his career took off in a big way, and in ways the numbers people often struggle to explain. This intangible dog factor might not show up as a plus-minus or a usage percentage, but anyone who's seen Jimmy Butler in playoff mode knows it's real. Whether it was that infamous 40-point triple-double in the 2020 finals without a single three-pointer, or his fearless performances in the 2023 playoffs where he torched the top-seeded Bucks, Butler has a way of imposing his will that defies spreadsheets. He'll stare down superstars like LeBron James or Giannis Antetokounmpo and tell them they're in trouble, then back it up. There's a certain intangible that players like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan had, a mental edge that raised their game when it mattered most. They didn't rely solely on advanced stats to tell them what shot was optimal. They attacked weaknesses with an almost personal vendetta. Butler channels that same energy. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it's entirely his own. By the time Jimmy took the Heat to the finals and made deep playoff runs year after year, data analysts started crunching new numbers to rationalize his success. Many insisted he was still inefficient by modern standards. Others pointed out that in the regular season, his production often hovered around 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. Very solid, but not exactly unstoppable. So how do you explain the fact that every team he joins suddenly blossoms? This is where the story deepens. Teams can measure spacing, shooting percentages, pick-and-roll outcomes, and so on. But how do you measure the effect of someone who forces the entire locker room to raise its standards? The intangible effect of someone who demands two-way effort out of every teammate? You don't. Numbers don't capture it because it's about heart, resilience, and leadership. Traits that can't be broken down into decimals. Fast forward to 2025 and the Golden State Warriors were on the brink of losing their identity. Steph Curry wasn't getting any younger, Klay Thompson's best days appeared behind him, and Draymond Green was rumored to be on the trading block. Critics said the Warriors' dynasty was done, and even the advanced stats agreed. They had slipped drastically on both offense and defense. Then came the trade that no one saw coming, Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. Plenty of fans and insiders rolled their eyes. After all, Butler was in his mid-30s. He'd never averaged eye-popping numbers, and even the 2K video game ratings ranked him way outside the top 20. How could he possibly turn things around in Golden State? Yet the moment he stepped foot in the locker room, a spark went off. Curry found renewed energy, Draymond rediscovered his defensive bite, and the bench players started playing like their careers depended on it. The new synergy was obvious. Games that previously slipped away in the final minutes were now easy closes, with Jimmy orchestrating big-time plays at both ends of the court. It wasn't about jacking up more threes or switching out of the mid-range. It was about imposing a will to win, plain and simple. Before long, the Warriors soared back into playoff contention, confounding the analysts who predicted another wasted season. By the time the postseason arrived, they looked like a legitimate threat. A 35-year-old Butler didn't need 30-point outbursts every night. He contributed with relentless defense, clutch jumpers, and a fierce attitude that said, "We're not done yet." Suddenly, the same data-driven experts who dismissed him had to scramble for a new angle. Jimmy Butler is living proof that analytics, for all their virtues, only tell part of the story. You can measure a player's shooting splits, you can chart out their percentages from each spot on the floor, and you can even map out advanced defensive metrics. But you can't quantify sheer will. You can't put a numerical value on a leader who pulls teammates aside and demands their best. You can't measure the boost in self-belief that comes from watching a teammate fearlessly challenge the league's biggest names. At every stage in his career, Jimmy faced doubts, from being an unranked recruit to the last pick of the first round, from overlooked role player to so-called locker room cancer. But time and again, he's flipped those labels upside down. By the numbers, a below-average three-point shot and modest scoring average shouldn't turn franchises into contenders. Yet that's exactly what he's done. And so we come to the bigger question. Are analytics the final word in basketball? Or are we missing something fundamental when we rely on a spreadsheet to define a player's impact? By watching Jimmy Butler, we see that heart, leadership, and pure competitiveness can swing entire seasons. They can resurrect dormant dynasties and turn eighth seeds into giant slayers. If that doesn't make us reconsider how we measure greatness, then we might be ignoring the most human element of all. Because in the end, the greatest victories aren't always won by the fastest, tallest, or most statistically perfect. They're won by the players who refuse to accept that they aren't supposed to succeed. They're won by the ones who rise above the noise and show the world that even in a game dominated by numbers, it's the unmeasurable traits that matter most. And that might just be the only statistic anyone should care about.
One click, big impact. Hit that subscribe button and join the squad. Your support keeps us going.